Welcome in, everyone. Ready for a deep dive?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
All right, so today we're exploring where astrology meets psychology, all through the fascinating lens of the four elements.
Sounds intriguing.
It is, right? We've got Stephen Arroyo's work as our guide,
Oh, Arroyo, excellent choice.
and a little bit of supporting research to bring it all together.
Can't wait.
By the end, you'll have some seriously practical tools to apply this ancient wisdom for, well, deeper self-knowledge, stronger relationships, you name it.
Yeah, the applications are endless.
Definitely. And you know what strikes me? How much modern astrology has shifted.
It has, hasn't it?
From that old school, the stars have decided your fate kind of vibe.
Oh yeah, so deterministic.
Right. But now it's more like a tool for self-discovery.
Exactly. A way to understand yourself.
And Arroyo really pushes back against that fatalistic astrology.
Like blaming your birth chart for everything.
Exactly. Instead, he's all about, hey, you've got these natal energies, work with them.
Make conscious choices.
Right. It's less about blaming the stars and more about, owning your energy.
Empowerment through astrology.
I love that. And he even brings karma into the equation.
Ooh, interesting.
But not in like a mystical woo-woo kind of way.
More like cause and effect.
Exactly. It's about how the energy we put out there shapes the experiences that come back to us.
Makes sense.
So it's like we're active participants in creating our reality.
We're not just puppets of the cosmos.
And this is where I think his critique of modern psychology gets really interesting.
Yeah, he definitely goes there.
He argues that psychology, with its focus on just the observable, the behavior, it misses out on the richness of our inner world.
Our thoughts, feelings, intuition.
Those aha moments that drive us.
All the good stuff.
And doesn't he bring in Carl Jung to back this up?
Absolutely. Jung's a big part of it.
Because Jung believed we have these multiple ways of knowing, right? It's not just about logic and senses.
And he identified those four psychic functions.
Yeah.
Thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition.
But our culture, it tends to overemphasize those first two.
Thinking and sensation.
This one's focus on the outer world.
And feeling and intuition, they get pushed aside.
The inner world.
Like they're less important.
So it's like, value those cold, hard facts.
More than your gut feeling.
Exactly. Even though those gut feelings can be incredibly insightful.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's that whole thing about how statistics, while useful, they can be misleading when it comes to individuals.
That's
Right?
100%. That was Jung's and Rollo May's point.
That averages don't tell the whole story.
Like, the average person has one breast and one testicle.
Oh, that's a classic.
Technically true, but not really helpful when you're dealing with an actual human being.
Perfect analogy. So Arroyo is suggesting we need a more holistic view.
Beyond just the external.
And he sees astrology as a key piece of that puzzle.
To fill in the gaps.
Not just about predicting events.
It's about understanding your inner landscape.
Your unique energy.
And that totally aligns with humanistic psychology's focus on growth and self-actualization.
Using your birth chart as a roadmap, not a prison sentence.
Exactly. And that brings us to the four elements.
Ah, yes. Fire, earth, air, and water.
Building blocks.
And Arroyo describes them as these fundamental energies operating in the universe and within each of us.
Universal language.
Right. But is he just talking about like the literal elements?
It's not quite, no.
Okay, good, because I was picturing like buckets of water.
He connects it to how different cultures recognize these elements, from Tibetan stupas to like Ayurveda.
Oh, so it's more of a universal archetype in a way.
Exactly, a code woven into existence.
That's pretty deep.
Right, and he quotes Dr. Randolph Stone, a pioneer in energy healing, who describes the elements as the unseen builders of life's structures.
Whoa.
Powerful imagery.
So it's not just about like flames and dirt.
It's about the energy they represent.
Like those finer energy fields that influence our health and well-being.
That we might not even be aware of.
So it's like there's more to fire than just the physical fire.
And more to water than what we drink.
It's almost like the concept of subtle bodies you find in some Eastern traditions, right? Those energy fields extending beyond the physical.
Oh, absolutely. And Arroyo brings in perspectives from Indian spiritual teachers who saw the elements as shaping these subtle bodies.
It's so fascinating.
It makes you wonder, how does this connect with modern parapsychological research?
Right, we're going beyond basic science class here.
Definitely. So how does this all tie back to our personalities?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Does understanding the dominant element in our birth charts, especially our sun sign, reveal something about us?
I think it does.
Arroyo believes it reveals a lot about your core motivations, how you experience reality.
Like, for example, fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius.
Known for their vibrant, expressive energy.
Always on the go.
Like a crackling fire dynamic, passionate, reaching upwards.
I can see that translating into that classic go-getter personality.
Definitely. But just like a fire needs to be contained, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, it just burns everything down.
Too much fire can manifest as impulsivity, impatience, even aggression.
Makes sense. Gotta have balance.
It's all about understanding how to balance those energies.
So what about earth signs? They always strike me as more grounded, practical.
Like literally connected to the earth.
Right. Like Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn.
They value practicality, stability, connecting to the physical world.
The builders, the organizers, the ones who get things done.
Think of a mountain.
Huh.
Solid, enduring, reliable.
I like that.
But like fertile soil, it needs tending, right?
You can't just leave it alone.
Too much earth can become rigid, over-focused on material possessions, resistant to change.
Stubborn even?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, on to air signs.
The thinkers?
Whenever I think of air signs like Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, I picture like a whirlwind of ideas, social connections.
That's a great image. Air signs are the communicators, the ones who connect ideas and people.
Constantly buzzing.
The energy of the wind.
Oh,
Constantly in motion, carrying thoughts and information far and wide.
that makes sense.
So they thrive on mental stimulation and social interaction.
Social butterflies for sure.
Often, yes. But just like the wind can be unpredictable, too much air can lead to scattered energy, difficulty making decisions, getting lost in abstract ideas without grounding them.
Too much in their head.
And finally, water signs.
Ah, yes. The feelers.
I always think of them as deeply emotional, intuitive, like they're flowing with the currents of their feelings.
Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces.
They're all about feeling, empathy, connecting to the depths of human experience.
Like the ocean, vast, mysterious, constantly changing, full of hidden depths.
Exactly. They're the ones we turn to for emotional support. The sensitive souls who are in tune with everyone else's feelings.
But too much water can be overwhelming, right?
It can, just like a flood.
It can lead to moodiness, oversensitivity, difficulty setting boundaries.
Finding that balance is key.
It's fascinating how each element paints such a distinct picture.
They really do.
But Arroyo doesn't just stop at descriptions, does he?
He doesn't.
He actually offers advice on how to use this knowledge.
To improve our lives.
Right. It's not just about interpreting our charts.
It's about taking action.
And that's what we'll explore next.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned. As we continue to explore Arroyo's insights and how understanding these elements can help you navigate your own unique journey.
It's gonna be good.
All right, so we've explored how the elements show up in our personalities.
The core energies.
But now I'm curious, how can understanding this energy help us in our relationships?
Oh, that's where it gets really fascinating.
Because Arroyo does address this, right?
He does. He dives right in.
Like, does he talk about elemental compatibility and all that?
He suggests that elemental harmony, particularly between the sun and moon placements, can be a major indicator of compatibility.
So like, okay, if my sun and moon are both in fire signs,
Lots of fire.
would I feel a strong connection with someone whose sun and moon are both in air signs? Because fire and air, they're compatible?
Exactly. Fire needs air to burn brightly, and air needs the heat of fire to rise.
It's a synergy.
A natural dance.
Oh, yeah.
But Arroyo also cautions that even with all those classic romantic aspects,
Like Venus conjunct Mars, all the lovey-dovey stuff.
right, even with those, if the underlying elemental energies clash, it can create long-term friction.
So even if you have all those great aspects,
All the textbook romance.
if your sun and moon are just fundamentally incompatible.
It might not be enough to sustain things.
Wow, so it's not just about those romantic aspects.
It's deeper than that.
It's about that elemental harmony.
The foundation of the relationship.
And he even says that elemental differences can affect things like, energy level,
Sleep patterns, overall well-being.
those practical everyday things.
Exactly.
Now, earlier you mentioned incompatible energy fields.
Yeah.
Is there like a scientific basis for this? Or is this getting a little too out there?
Well, Arroyo points to research on subtle energies like electromagnetic fields, auras.
Like those things that people can supposedly see.
Right, and those studies suggest that we radiate energy that can be perceived by others.
Interesting, so we're not just imagining it.
And he even shares a story about a Precis sun Scorpio rising individual who found it impossible to work in the same room as a Scorpio sun person.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, because of their incompatible energies.
It makes you wonder if all those couples who say they sleep better in separate beds are onto something.
Maybe it's not about a lack of intimacy.
Maybe it's about managing those different energy fields.
Well,
Could be.
That's fascinating.
Aurora's point is, different energies have different needs and rhythms.
It's not about one being better than the other.
It's about recognizing that compatibility goes beyond shared interests or values.
It's that energetic compatibility.
Foundational.
Okay, so we've talked about individual personalities
How we express those elements.
and how they create harmony or discord in
The
relationships.
dance of elements.
But now I'm thinking, how does this all relate to the different areas of our lives?
Career, finances, spirituality.
Right, all those things. Don't the houses in the birth chart represent those areas?
They do.
So how does that fit in? This is where Arroyo introduces a really interesting keyword system for understanding the houses.
Tell me more.
It goes beyond traditional interpretations.
Instead of saying Saturn in the 7th house means a difficult marriage kind of thing.
Right, it's less about specific events or outcomes.
More about the underlying principle.
Exactly.
So, for example, the 7th house, traditionally partnerships.
Right.
What's the key word for that?
In Arroyo's system, it becomes the realm of social and intellectual action.
Interesting.
It's about how we engage with others one-on-one, initiate relationships, express ourselves within those dynamics.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this works.
It's a different lens.
So how does he break down all the houses in terms of the element?
He groups them accordingly.
Okay, like categories.
The water houses, the 4th, 8th, and 12th, are all about emotional security.
That makes sense. Water emotions.
The 4th house is emotional security in the home and family.
Our roots.
The 8th house is soul security, delving into our deeper existential needs.
Oh, wow. Deep stuff.
And the 12th house is about emotional and soul learning, often through challenging experiences.
So the water houses are where we really process our feelings.
See comfort, belonging, and ultimately grow through those emotional experiences.
What about the earth houses?
The earth houses, the 2nd, 6th, and 10th, are all about security in the material world.
Practical matters.
The 2nd house is security in the material world through our resources and possessions.
What we value.
The 10th house is security through work, our career path.
How we build our legacy.
And the 6th house is material learning through the challenges and responsibilities of daily life.
The nitty-gritty.
So the earth houses are where we build our foundations, learn to manage resources, create stability and accomplishment in the physical world.
All right, what about fire houses?
Those are all about identity.
Makes sense, fire, that burning passion.
The 1st house is identity in action, how we express ourselves, take action in the world.
How we show up.
The 5th house is about identity security, finding ways to express our creativity and passions, to feel a sense of purpose.
What lights us up?
And the 9th house is learning about identity, often through expanding our horizons, exploring different philosophies, seeking higher knowledge.
The bigger picture.
So the fire houses are where we discover who we are, what makes us unique, how we want to make our mark.
What about the air houses?
All about connection.
Communication, right?
The 3rd house is intellectual and social learning, through communication, early education, connecting with our immediate environment.
Our early influences.
The 7th, as we talked about, is social and intellectual action, through one-on-one relationships.
How we relate.
And the 11th is social and intellectual security, finding our place in the community, contributing our unique gifts.
So the air houses are where we learn to communicate, form connections, contribute to the collective.
Through ideas, social interactions.
Wow, this keyword system is really helpful.
It makes it so much more accessible.
But all this talk about elemental energies, I'm wondering, what does modern science have to say about all this?
Good question.
Is there any evidence to back up these ancient concepts?
Arroyo actually addresses this.
Oh, good. I was hoping he would.
He points to a growing body of scientific research that supports the existence of energy fields.
Like what kind of research?
He mentions studies on electromagnetic fields, auras, even the influence of planetary alignments on sunspot cycles.
Whoa, that's getting cosmic.
He even references the work of Dr. Gustav Stromberg, an astronomer who proposed the idea of electrodynamic living fields.
So he's saying there's more to us than just our physical bodies.
That these fields shape living organisms.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
He's not saying he has all the answers,
Of course not.
but he's pointing to this research as evidence that we're only beginning to understand how energy operates.
In the universe, within us.
All connected.
Now, this whole idea of elemental compatibility, it's really intriguing.
It, isn't it?
But doesn't it risk putting people in boxes?
That's a valid concern.
Like, if my partner and I have incompatible fun signs, are we doomed?
Remember, astrology, especially through this elemental lens, is about understanding tendencies, not absolutes.
Not a life sentence.
It's about becoming aware of potential challenges so we can navigate them consciously.
Not an excuse to give up.
It's a tool for growth and understanding.
So it's not about saying, you're a fire sign, so you'll always be impulsive.
It's more like knowing you have a strong fire influence. What are some healthy ways to express that energy?
And manage those potential downsides.
Exactly.
It's about self-awareness and conscious choice.
And recognizing that even within a single element, there's a spectrum of expression.
So two fire signs might express their fire very differently.
Absolutely. One might be outwardly passionate and driven, while the other channels that fire into more introspective pursuits like writing or art.
It's about nuance.
It's about understanding the individual chart.
This is also fascinating.
It is.
And I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
There's always more to explore.
But before we get too carried away, there's still more to uncover about this elemental approach.
Definitely.
Stick with us as we delve even deeper. So we've covered a lot of ground, from personality traits to, relationships to the houses.
Yeah, it's been a journey
It really has.
through the elements.
But now I'm thinking, okay, what does it all mean? How can we actually use this knowledge to, improve our lives? It feels like we've got all these puzzle pieces.
Right, we've got to put them together.
But how do we assemble the puzzle?
Well, it's not just about interpreting our birth charts.
Right, it's going to be more than that.
It's about using that knowledge
Right, practically.
to become more conscious co-creators of our reality.
Woo, I like that, co-creators.
We're not just passive observers.
Okay, that sounds amazing, but how do we actually do that? What are some, concrete steps?
Well, the first step is self-awareness.
Okay, that makes sense.
Really study your birth chart.
Really look at it.
What's your dominant element? Are there any imbalances? How are the elements playing out in different areas of your life?
Those houses, right.
Exactly.
So, let's say I discover I have a ton of fire in my chart, but my career is represented by earth houses.
Interesting combination.
Could that create some tension? My fiery energy might not be finding a healthy outlet in my work life.
That's a really good example.
Because fire and earth, they're not exactly the most compatible.
They can clash.
Right.
And once you understand your energetic makeup, you can start making choices that align with your natural rhythms and needs.
Choices that feel good.
Choices that support your energy.
So maybe, in that example, I'd need to find ways to inject more creativity into my work.
That could be a good solution.
Or maybe even consider a career shift that better suits my, fiery nature.
If that's what feels right.
Because it's not about trying to change who I am.
Exactly.
It's about becoming aware of my natural tendencies and finding ways to express them, I guess, constructively.
Finding those healthy outlets.
So that my fire doesn't burn everything down.
Right. It's about making choices that nourish your energy, not deplete it.
And this understanding, it could also help us in our relationships, right? If I know my partner's a strong earth sign, someone who thrives on routine, stability.
The rock.
Yeah, the rock. I might be less likely to get frustrated when they're not down for my spontaneous weekend getaway plans.
Because you understand their needs.
It's not that they're boring.
No, it's not personal.
It's that they genuinely appreciate structure and consistency.
And that's okay.
Yeah, we can honor those differences.
Maybe you plan your spontaneous adventures with friends.
Right, and then schedule regular date nights that give my partner that stability they need.
Finding a compromise.
This is so practical, I love it.
It's about working with those energies.
But it's like learning a new language, the language of energy.
That helps us understand ourselves and others on a deeper level.
And like any language, it takes time, practice.
To become fluent.
But it's worth the effort. It's not about putting people in boxes or excusing bad behavior, though.
No, definitely not.
It's about cultivating understanding, compassion.
Meeting people where they are.
And it's about taking responsibility for our own energy.
Owning our stuff.
Yeah, if I know I'm prone to those fiery outbursts,
That passionate fire.
I can learn to manage that energy more constructively.
Pause. Take a breath.
Choose a more thoughtful response instead of just reacting impulsively.
Right, and that's where the real power of this elemental approach comes in.
It's about growth, evolution.
It's not blaming our charts for our challenges, but using that knowledge to evolve.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
It really have.
And I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
There's always more to explore.
There is, isn't there? But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Oh, I like this.
If astrology is, as we've been discussing, a language of energy,
This ancient wisdom.
how can you use this newfound understanding to improve your life, your relationships, your understanding of the world around you? Keep exploring, keep tuning in to that subtle language of energy.
That connects us all.
That connects us all, exactly. Thanks for joining us.